Hello, my name is George Steele. In this video, I will describe the importance of Bloom's taxonomies for educational planning and highlight and explain how resources on this page can assist those engaged in that endeavor. In short, Bloom's taxonomies can help us conceptualize how we can intentionally align our learning outcomes with activities that can advance students' critical thinking. Our position is that by considering the insights provided by Bloom's taxonomies, we can better implement the purpose of Nakata's concept of academic advising and focus our intentional use of the instructional and curricular model of backward by design. There are three Bloom's taxonomies from left to right: psychomotor, affective, and cognitive. These taxonomies are also called domains of learning. In this case, the psychomotor addresses learning in the area of manual and physical skills, the affective and growth of feelings and control of emotional areas, and also making value decisions, whereas the cognitive addresses the area of mental skills and the development of knowledge. All three domains or taxonomies of learning have some general characteristics. All are interactive and interdependent with one another. They are presented as separate entities to help us focus on their characteristics. All three share a similar trait in that they show a progression from simplistic to more complex forms of usage by individuals engaged in critical thinking, with the simplistic area at the bottom of the pyramid and the most complex at the top. All have action verbs associated to the unique levels found in each taxonomy to identify learning. And finally, Bloom's taxonomies are designed to help teachers understand and implement standard-based curricula and/or programs. Let's first consider the affective domain. As you see at the very bottom of the period, there are two areas called receiving and responding. I've always found this probably most closely associated with the notion of mindfulness. First, before we make type of decisions about values, we have to be paying attention. As we move up, you'll notice that the middle area is called valuing, and that's merely making a choice. And so when we make a choice, we are valuing. As we move up higher into the pyramid, we see organization and character set by value set. What these areas suggest are these are the areas where we begin to make moral and ethical types of decisions and decisions about values. Now, one of the things that is very true about the affective realm is that emotions are also associated with this. It's not difficult to understand why. Things that we believe are important to us, we have an emotional attachment to. Let's take a look at the affective domain. As you can see from the pyramid that we start out at the bottom level of receiving and responding. This is basically, for me, mindfulness and paying attention. We can't make choices about what we want to do unless we're paying attention. Then we move up to the area of valuing. In valuing, we're just making a choice. We're not trying to justify it in any type of way. For lunch, I may want a ham sandwich or a turkey sandwich. What is my choice? All right. Now I'm at the point of making a choice because I was receiving information that I was hungry and I responded to it by deciding to make a sandwich, turkey. All right. But as we move on up the pyramid to organization and characterization by value set, what we're doing with the affective domain is getting to the point of having values looked at in an ethical and moral way. This is what we want our students to do in college as they go through college, but also as we help them prepare for professional life afterwards. And these type of value, ethical and value type of decisions and moral decisions that they're going to be making covers a wide range of type of values. Not only it would be professional ethics or personal ethics as they involved in the type of work they may want to choose to do, but also things such as what type of values are most important in terms of practice, in terms of how does one proceed, let's say, in working on a project? What type of evidence does one use? What type of aesthetic values does one have? And so the valuing complex is very much a part of any type of critical thinking process. The next domain or taxonomy we'd like to look at is the cognitive. This is the one most people are familiar with because it has to deal with mental states. One way I like to make a distinction between the cognitive and the affective domain is by referring to the works of Carl Jung. Jung, in his book on psychological types, makes a distinction between two different types of rational functions, thinking and feeling. Thinking is the mode in which we evaluate a concern for the truth or the falsity of experience, whereas feelings is an affective sentimental function that involves judging a value of things and having opinions, but also the idea of having an emotional attachment to them. So, in this way, much of the differences or the way of comparing and contrasting the affective and the cognitive domain is to take into consideration the works of Carl Jung. When we consider the cognitive pyramid, when we get started with this, you can see at the very bottom, the basic area is just remembering. And it moves up through understanding, which is comprehension, to applying it to a new situation, to analyzing the components, to evaluating the effectiveness of making a judgment about the idea, the concept, or the information, getting up to the area of creation where we are creating, where we're actually taking all of the things that we know, that we've looked at, we've analyzed, and applying it and creating something new and different. And the point I would make is when we do tutoring and we do academic advising, one of the things we are asking students to do is to go through a planning process, which is focused on what their interests, their abilities, their values are, how they want to proceed in terms of being successful within this particular path. That is a creative process. So for me, when we end up by working with students, this is the highest level in terms of using the cognitive domain. The last domain of learning we're going to look at will be the area of psychomotor. The psychomotor deals with the development of skills and manual skills in particular. So as we see from this one, we move from reflex movements, which are involuntary types of reactions, all the way up to highly sophisticated types of movements. What I would suggest is what you see within the area of athletes. It's also nonverbal communications. And as you move through this, one of the things that might come to mind is, well, why are we talking about this in terms of tutoring? But I think there are two or three good reasons for doing this. The first of these reasons is because our students use a lot of technology, and they may need help in terms of using that technology that the institution insists upon. And the other big area, I believe, is the area of presentations. For when we think of presentations, we want to work with our students in ways in which we help them address the notion of physical movement in addition to the nonverbal movements when they address different types of audiences. Finally, one way to use this page that we've provided to you and other resources on the page with the links is when you scroll down, you'll notice that under each of the domains has listed underneath them words, action verbs actually, that can be associated with the different levels of each of the domains, whether it be affective, the cognitive, or the psychomotor. The notion being is that as you're developing learning outcomes, these action verbs refer to these different levels to help one think about how you would want to approach using Bloom's taxonomy to link learning outcomes with activities.